about selecting the points, you mentioned selecting them by the latest imagery or the image in the right time, and trying to pick some points where there was more corn development. Do you take into account other factors such as path yields or type of soils, for instance?
We do. So we really look at soil type right now. So we try to select 3 of the 4 points from the 3 major soil groups within that field. It's really nice when we have a management history. For example, one of the fields that I think you're going to show, Ed, is a field in Indiana. And within that field, if I did not know what was going on within that field, I probably would not have made very wise choices in my point selection. One of the things that was happening in that field is that back in 1963, all of the topsoil within that area was removed for the building of a road. And here's the image. Ed's actually got it up on the screen now. The north side of that field was completely excavated to build the road that is there. They then went back in with just rubble fill and filled over that north part of that field. Yields in that side of the field are traditionally low. However, if you look, it's also one of the predominant soil types within the field. It's unlike some of the other things that are going on within that field. And if I did not know that that was what was going on, I might have chosen a point within that field to tell whether or not this farmer was using his nitrogen effectively. Knowing that, we actually have split that field into 2. One of the fields is the southern half, and then we use the management on the northern half completely different because it is such an anomaly in that area. And so we're actually writing 2 plans for that field. Soil type is important. Water flow. Looking to see where ponding of water has historically occurred. We do not want to sample within those areas. Those are anomaly areas within a field. They're not going to give us an accurate look at how the nitrogen is being utilized. Even within the year, we want to know what's going on. That's why we want to take that imagery as late in the season as possible to be able to get a really good look of what's going on across the field. You can see variations within a field given real-time imagery, and you can make wiser decisions then on where to select points. The 4th point is a deficient point. Yeah, here is the actual imagery from that field. We try to choose a deficient point that is within one of the 3 soil types that we have already tested from. So we want to choose 3 points that look like they are in good stand. They're dark green, in this case with corn. There doesn't appear to be any waterways or anything running through them. And then that 4th point, we want to choose something that for some reason just looks a little off. Maybe, you know, a lot of cases it's a deficiency of a different type. Sometimes it's a micronutrient deficiency, or you know, an area where the soil maybe didn't drain the year before, or lots of residue and the crop didn't get planted correctly, or, you know, whatever the myriad of reasons. But we need to have a baseline to be able to measure that from. So that is the rhyme and the reason behind how we go about selecting those samples at this point.
Great. Well, thank you. There's another question from Jason. Question is, I understand concept of stock nitrate sampling. However, this is a post-mortem information that does not allow for in-season supplemental nitrogen to save or protect yield losses. I would be interested to hear response to this matter, or rephrasing, what benefits do you extract from this post-season analysis?
Right. Well, and that's part of the reason that I stressed that it needed to be part of an adaptive management plan. It's not the only sampling that we do for a good majority of our farmers. We also do go out and do mid-season tissue sampling. We look at soil sampling, and a lot of times we will try to pair, just recently we've started trying to pair when we've done a mid-season tissue sample, we georeference those, because we also want to go back at the end of the season then and select our guided stock sample for our postmortem look from those same kind of areas, at least a couple of them, to see if the changes that we made mid-season, how did those impact the end of the season. Did we apply enough to get it to just the optimal range? Did we apply way too much and now we're in this excessive, and then it becomes this fine-tuning process back and forth. Postmortem, looking at postmortem, it really is a historic picture. You have to know historically what's been going on and what your yields are doing, and it really does not work well if it's a one-shot, one-time only piece. It's just one tool in the toolbox to be able to start refining this level of nutrient that we're applying. So by no means is it the only way to go about it. It's not the only thing, and we really are trying to apply multiple things in a given year with our farmers to be able to really start to tell the whole story of what's going on. I hope that answered your question. If not, let me know.
And the next question is that mid-season tissue sample geo-referenced with NDVI imagery, or in other words, if to know where to take the sample? Or how do you, when you do mid-season tissue sample, do you use any support background information, or such as NDVI or other?
Right. This year was really the first year that we went out and tried to do a lot of mid-season tissue sampling. Now, that being said, we're going to change the way we've done some things based on this year. Yes, we will be using imagery. We have some CCAs that we work with currently, and that's exactly what they do. They'll go to a company like GeoAgro, and they would order, NDVI imagery for that field at a given time, because that is pretty rapid turnaround. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to get that imagery. They can then very quickly make a decision as to where they want to go out and take those samples based on the imagery of the field. Another way they often look at it is based on soil sampling. So what are the results of the soil sampling? Where have, or yield rate maps from the year before or 2 years before, coupled with soil sampling to see where there has been an area that is traditionally lower in yield. And, if you have yield rate maps from time, past, you can start to see where there are areas that are traditionally low, and then you can start to target those areas and try to figure out exactly what's going on better within those areas.
Great. Well, thank you, Martha.